We're going to
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, right.
So Boker Tov, everybody, and Parshat Vayishlach. We dip into the continuation of the story of Jacob and Esav and their meeting, and I'm pulling up for us the scene so that we can take a look. Actually, I'm going to share my screen now so you can all see and play with this. The website that I play with from time to time, Sefaria. If you haven't played with it, it's really wonderful because you just go here and it's a whole library, right, of everything you could want from Tanakh, Mishnah, Talmud, Midrash, and it just keeps going. So I'm going to go into my sheet and go in here to our Torah portion. So here we are at Parshat Vayishlach, and I would like us to hover for a few moments on this beginning part of the story and the reunion scene. So to get us into it, I'll read through it quickly, and then I'll turn us over to some midrash that plays with how this went and didn't go. So this is the scene where Yaakov is sending messengers ahead to his brother Esav in the land of Seir, right? They've been separated for some decades now. Yaakov has gone and built his family. He has 11 of his 12 sons. And Dinah are already born to him, his 4 wives and so forth. And he's on the move, having left Lavan, and he's nervous because he's acquired so much, and he's now having to encounter Esav, having stolen the birthright.
He had all his children.
There we go. So I am going to fast forward, as it were, to their scene, to the scene. Looking up, Jacob saw Esav coming. He's already divided his camp, right? He's nervous, he's distressed. He divides his camp into 2 and spends the night sleeping on his own on one side of the river without anybody. And he wrestles all night with this angel. And then looking up the next morning, Yaakov saw Esav coming with a retinue of 400. He divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 maids, putting the maids and their children first, Leah and her children next, Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead and bowed low to the ground 7 times until he was near his brother. Esav ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. And thereupon they begin to meet the rest of the family. And it's this beautiful reunion scene. And so what I want us to think about is the ways that it does or does not match Esav expectations. And I'm going to share a screen, which was the PowerPoint that I played with in working with our bar mitzvah boy this coming Shabbat. Levi Jacobs, his father's on the board of the synagogue. So I give that an extra shout out that anybody who wants to come this Shabbos and support one of our, up and coming, younger generation lay leaders who just joined the board, please come. Plus it'll be a beautiful Shabbat morning together. But Levi and I were learning some of these texts. And so you're going to see all of these in his, or many of these in his Dvar Torah. So this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it was so interesting, the conversation, and I want to have it with you as well. So here's my framing question is, what can we learn about the reconciliation, right? Here, Yaakov was so nervous, and he spends this chapter sending emissaries ahead to Esav. And yet the climactic scene is so not what he expected, right? He thought it was going to be disaster and warfare and violence. And instead he is met by his brother, whom he has wronged, right, with an embrace, and they weep, and then they have a short time together, short visit, and they leave one another in peace. And that's kind of the end of their rivalry in their lifetime. So the tradition teaches, Rabbi Jonathan said, when anyone seeks to conciliate a king or a ruler and does not know his way and usages, let him set before himself this story, and he will learn from it the proper procedure in attempting conciliation and appeasement. So the rabbis look at this story as some kind of a lesson for us in how to make amends. And so I want us to look a little bit, not just at the pshat of the story itself, which we just kind of summarized for ourselves, but at a midrash or 2 and see what we might learn from it. And so what are we supposed to be learning? What might we learn about conciliation from this story? Rav Huna began his discourse with the verse, "He that passes by someone else he once had a fight with, and stirs memories of a quarrel no longer in the other person's mind, is like someone who takes a dog by the ears." So he's quoting this verse from Proverbs, the biblical book of Proverbs, and that's the game of Midrash, right? You take a verse from all the way over there and you try and apply it to the Parsha. He went on to cite Rabbi Samuel bar Nachman's parable of a robber chieftain who was asleep at a crossroads when a man passed and woke him up, saying, "Wake up! In this place, a bad thing happened between us, remember?" The robber chieftain jumped up and began beating the man, who cried out, "Look at him! He woke up as evil as ever." To which the robber chieftain replied, "I was sound asleep, and you woke me up for no good reason." So too, the Holy One told Jacob, Esav was going his own way, and you, stirring up memories, you send emissaries to him. So I'm pausing there for us to chime in a little bit. What do we think the moral of this story is? What are we supposed to be learning about conciliation here in this midrash, in this story? Yeah, Joel, go ahead.
I think one thing we're supposed to learn is that the person who seeks forgiveness has to wrestle with his own thoughts and feelings before he can approach the person he has wronged.
Beautifully said. I love how you're poetically playing with that scene, that he's so nervous, but he's wrestling. He spends the whole night wrestling, and then he's ready to approach. It's beautiful.
So
Go ahead.
I also think in a broader context, you have to meet people where they are. You have to be ready to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and rather than trying to udgy them ahead of time into the position you want them in, you have to be ready to meet them where they are with their needs and their viewpoint. And it's so funny. We watched an episode of The Crown last night, and with no spoiler alerts, that's the essence of the conversation, is what does somebody really want out of an exchange? And how can you look at what they want with kindness in your heart?
Beautiful. So meeting them where they are. So like Yaakov goes forward to meet Esav in the scene. Is that what you're seeing? Like he's going out, he's sending everything to him.
Yeah, but Esav was already, I think what we read at the very end of what you just quoted is Esav was already coming to him. So maybe he didn't. I think what the Holy One is saying to Jacob is, stop a second. If you're going to lead these people, maybe it's sometimes good to send a messenger ahead, and sometimes you should just let the person come to you. But take more time to suss out the situation.
Good. Anyone else want to jump in on the midrash or the scene? What do we make of, I'll put it back up. What do we make of he that passes by someone else he once had a fight with and stirs memories of a quarrel no longer in the other person's mind is like someone who takes a dog by the ears, right? And then this story, right? This guy is walking along. He sees this thief, the gangster, let's say, who's asleep, right? And he wakes him up. And then he's like, "Hey, remember the last time you like shot me or, robbed me or mugged me or whatever at this very spot, remember?" And then the guy beats him up. Like, what do you think was going to happen? And then what is his reaction? His reaction is like, see, he was awful all along. Whereas what? If he had just walked by and let the guy sleep, what? And so this is a parable for us. So I would love for us to play with the parable. Marlene, did you want to say something? You're on mute, but you're also lit up. So I can't tell if you
I'm out walking the dog.
Yeah, good.
So I kind of was taking devil's advocate, and I was thinking of kind of you're talking about dogs, and it's kind of like, let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Or the other one that's similar is, don't stir the pot.
Yeah, I feel like that's what the parable's saying. Don't stir the pot. Like, Yaakov, come on, you putz. Like you didn't have to go past Esav. I'd like taken him on a different, or you didn't have to like go back to that difficult spot with him or something. Charles, did you want to say something? You're on mute though.
Sorry. I'm confused by this discussion because how does Yaakov know what Esau's state of mind is unless he sends a messenger? And the message you quoted suggests leave him alone, don't go there. But how do you if you want to obtain forgiveness and from a full heart, you have to take a step, some kind of step, to determine whether the other person is still angry, and let them know. And first of all, that you are seeking forgiveness, not wake them up, but or I don't know. It left me confused as to how this was the story.
Beautiful. I love that. Like, how are you supposed to know? And how are you supposed to make reconciliation if you're supposed to let sleeping dogs lie? Like, there's a conflicting message of conflicting values here. I'll give the spoiler alert to Levi's answer, our bar mitzvah boy's answer, because this is exactly where we took the conversation. But Mindy, you go ahead.
No, I agree with Charles. I'm a little confused because one way you can look at it, it's not about you, right? Even though you want to seek reconciliation and forgiveness, it is about the other person giving you forgiveness or recognition or acceptance, right? The other thing though I'm confused about is, if you fast forward, and you think about the premise of Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the whole notion of trying to seek reconciliation with one another, I'm also a little confused by what, as Charles puts it.
Yeah. It's confusing. Yeah, go ahead, Jerry. You're on mute though. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, my confusion here is, can you have, if you let sleeping dogs lie, okay, that can work, but can it work emotionally to the end? In other words, can you have reconciliation without talking about what the problem was, even though neither of you, okay, really want to bring that up again, or maybe both of you have already forgotten it, okay, and are willing to go on with your life?
Right. So you would want there to be, it sounds like we would want there to be some other kind of conversation that's not fear tinged or something. And so I'll share the screen because there's another midrash that might help us deepen. This midrash imagines Yaakov's state of mind, right? So they're playing with the verse. Then Yaakov was greatly afraid and was distressed when he heard that Esav was approaching him. Rabbi Judah bar Rabbi Eli asked, aren't fear and distress identical? Like, why are we using the same word twice in the Torah, right? Because there's no wasted word. The meaning, however, is that he was afraid lest he should be killed. And he was distressed lest he should kill. For he thought, if Esav proves stronger than I, he might kill me. And if I prove stronger than him, I might kill him. So what does this show about Yaakov's state of mind? Debbie, go ahead.
I don't understand why, if he was so fearful and he really wasn't sure, why he even went to approach Esav at this point. Did he really want forgiveness or what? I mean, why, if he didn't want to open up a can of worms again, why did he bother at that point? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I think that's what the first midrash, the one about the robber, is saying, right? It's saying like, It's picking up on that. And this midrash too is imagining he's only afraid. He's terrified. And like that's, and what happens when we're terrified or afraid? Like we expect the worst, right? We're planning for the worst possible outcome. And then maybe we make things worse, right? Like maybe we actually stir the pot, to use Marlene's phrase, right? Like that's like when we're operating from that place of terror and stress and anxiety and fear, like that's when we're like spinning and then we make things worse instead of better. And I'm just going to send one more text and I'm just going to call one more time and I'm just going to bring it up one more time and I'm just going to try it this way, right? And I wonder if putting these two together, there's not some message for us that is a bridge between what some of us are saying, like the having space to reconcile, but also what, not stirring the pot again.
You should have, I mean, wait,
Debbie, then Leslie.
if you really want to make amends, then go face the issue. If not, why bother?
Yeah, Bernie and then Leslie and then Joel.
It seems to me that Jacob enters into this situation with a guilty conscience.
Right.
And not only that, but he prepares himself for the fate that he deserves. And in other words, he deserves to be punished for what he did to Esav, and that's what he expects when Esav, in fact, is beneficent in this case and has already forgiven him.
Yes. So I love that his fear is like related to the guilty conscience. And so he's looking for expiation in some way, or is he, or maybe not. He should be looking for expiation, but maybe he's not. Well,
racial action that he expects he would deserve in his situation. In other words, he assumes that Esav would be doing what he would do in that situation.
good. So Leslie, Joel, and Ed.
Right. So it was actually not until we read it, these two times this week that I noticed, really fully realized that Jacob is worried about what he might do to Esav. Like it was the first time I was really, really struck. Like, hang on a second. He's not just worried about Esav hurting him. He's worried that he's gonna, somehow either have to defend himself or get so angry or who knows what. Why would you? I mean, like, you're in control of that, Jacob. Get a grip on yourself. But I think it's related to his guilty conscience. I think Bernie has it exactly right. Like, sometimes when you're feeling guilty, right, you strike first, so the other person doesn't have a chance to say, you bad person. I don't know. It's a really human understanding of or a deep understanding of the human condition in human nature, which is
beautiful. I love that. The way we carry guilt then causes us to be not our best selves. Yeah, Joel.
The reason for the need for reconciliation is told to us at the end of the parsha, where it recounts that Isaac died and was buried by his sons. Despite the fact that these were grown men with hundreds of retainers each, they were still brothers. They were still part of a family. And that needed to be, the conflict needed to be resolved so that they could continue to do what their family duties required.
Beautiful. And by the way, that's the last time we see them together, right? So family. And then the question is, like, even at the end of their scene of their reunion, they're together. Esav says, hey, come meet me in Seir, Sukkot. I'm getting the cities mixed up. And Yaakov says, sure, I'll see you there. And never goes, right? Ed.
Yeah, I'm not a lover of either Jacob or Joseph, because why did Jacob wait 20 years? If he wanted to reconcile, he was a wealthy man. He could have sent a messenger at some point in 20 years. And same with Joseph. He's concerned about his father. He's the second most powerful man in Egypt. He could have sent a messenger, hey, Dad, how are you? So I'm suspicious of both of them. I don't like them.
That's well said. And I wonder if that's also what's in this first midrash where, where God says to Yaakov, like, what are you doing? Like, I let you off the hook. You didn't have to go Esav to see Esav, which doesn't help. It doesn't get Yaakov off the hook. It's picking up on what you're saying, Ed, which is like, there's something else going on here, right? Curtis, do you want to say something? And then we can
a couple of things. I think, first of all, Jacob and Esau were both prosperous, and sometimes the more prosperous you are, the more generous you can be. And as far as the Jacob and Joseph story, yeah, it kind of reminds me of what we read about in Shalach Lecha, where God told the Israelites, don't send spies. And then Moses said, oh, they really want to seek out the land, they really want to, and they did, and then you got only 2 out of 12 give a positive report, and then the people were really punished. Seems that was the problem. So, sometimes you shouldn't overdo things.
I love that connection, Curtis. What a great connection, right? Because maybe that helps me tie it back up, to some kind of concluding landing spot, because there's so much in here. We could make lots of conclusions, but maybe I'm gonna end with Curtis's, right? Like maybe these two stories together are about how we carry our anxiety and our fear and our guilt and our fear of the unknown, right? And maybe it's like, watch out, you're going to stir the pot. So going back to Joel's point, make sure you wrestle with it, a whole lot, a long time, all night long, proverbial night, like really wrestle, really do your inner work. Make sure that you really are in touch with what's going on in yourself. And then be careful not to stir the pot, be careful not to make it worse, and to act with integrity. And then maybe it'll work out. Actually, maybe you don't know how it's going to end. And this is where our bar mitzvah boy will be taking it on Shabbos, right? He comes down on the side of optimism, and he says Yaakov's fear has him expecting the worst. He can only imagine an outcome which ends in either him doing violence or Esav doing violence. And he can't imagine a situation in which they actually hug each other and embrace and have both made peace with what happened all these decades later. So I'm going to leave us in that place of optimism and hope that when we do our inner work, then maybe we can land ourselves into a place where we realize we don't have to carry fear and anxiety. We can actually carry some optimism, some calm, and hope for reconciliation. And maybe that's the lesson here, right? Is to let everybody give everyone their time and their space, and then know that it will work out with optimism and hope. On that note, my friends, I will see you on Shabbos or at Minyan on Sunday. No, I won't be at Minyan on Sunday again, on Monday. Have a great day, everybody.
Hope everyone.
Great day, good Shabbos.